So Spencer.
Yes?
You see about this? You hear about this? Barnes & Noble, in a very tone-deaf move, their Barnes & Noble Fifth Avenue decided what they're going to do is relaunch a bunch of classic novels, but with diversity covers. So they're going to have all... like
Black Peter Pan or something?
Yes, exactly. Like they have Treasure Island, but they got the fucking, a black man as the captain, I guess. And here, who else can you point out on there? Moby Dick, Captain Ahab.
Yeah.
And, what a dumb move. Why would you think that just changing
the cover?
Yeah, changing the race of the characters on the book covers would do anything to promote diversity when it's the content of the book.
Yeah.
If anything, why wouldn't you promote books from people of color? Like Langston Hughes or Toni Morrison, or wouldn't that be what you're promoting? No, you're going to relaunch
which, depending on how far back you go, and what book you do, could very be, racist or controversial in the subject matter. Like, could you imagine them doing that with Huckleberry Finn or something like that?
Yeah, that wouldn't be good. Well, for instance, just because this is a cropped out photo, there's a Black Frankenstein.
That seems like that makes it worse. You know what I mean?
Well, is his head just black, or is his whole thing black? Because he's just cobbled together body parts.
Yeah.
We have Black Romeo and Juliet, Black Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz, and she's very stereotypical. It looks like it's hard to see. It looks like she has either braids or dreads or something going on. We have, this is an interesting one. It looks like an Indian Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Dude, that one could be cool.
Well, again, though, this is the thing. It's not the cover.
Story.
If the stories were about a Black Frankenstein,
that would be kind of cool.
Indian Dr. Jekyll, you could do a lot with that. Have people of color rewrite these stories. I mean, not rewrite the actual. I don't know how you'd consider doing that without getting into the murky waters of copyright and stuff.
That stuff though, Frankenstein and Dracula.
Reimagining.
Yeah, reimagining, because a lot of that stuff is probably falling into public domain, or an estate or whatever. I'm sure that they would be, if they were smart, they would play along with that.
Right. I mean, the Secret Garden looks like it's hard to see, maybe an Asian character, an Asian girl.
And that's the thing too. You have to if you were to do something like that, most of those that we just went through were characters being turned into just black characters.
Yeah.
There's also the Asian characters or the Indian characters. There's a whole bunch of the different races that you need to represent if you're going to represent something.
Well, if you're going with diversity, but again, why just the cover? That's the bonehead thing about it, because these covers do look kind of cool. If the story was about okay, here's Alice in Wonderland. This looks like either, it's hard to tell because she has a head wrap. She has maybe Native. She looks like a Native American, but her skin's real dark. So I'm not sure what race that's supposed to be. But if you go into Alice in Wonderland and you see that cover, say you actually got a kid who went in there, ooh, Alice in Wonderland, but they never actually saw the movies or read the story. So they get this book with the diverse character on the cover, start reading it, and it's well, why is she blonde hair, blue eyes? That doesn't make sense. You're going to be oh, this is fucking stupid. It doesn't make any sense why they do that Peter. Oh, the Peter Pan is bad, dude.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, look at it. Look at it. What is that?
Oh, yeah, that's weird.
That looks it looks, I can't even tell if it's a black woman or a black boy. It's very long and lanky, kind of Slender Man-ish, but it has the fucking this froed out awful hair. Who is this supposed to represent? These are terrible. Why would they come out with that? It doesn't make any sense. It didn't say, I didn't read the article. I don't even know if there's an actual article about why they did that. I assumed it was for Black History Month, but they were just going to they're just to promote diversity. So a collection of classic books with new culturally diverse covers will make their debut at New York City largest bookstore. So it's just the New York Fifth Avenue Barnes & Noble. This is a Barnes & Noble countrywide. I don't see who would sign off on this.
Or could you imagine the ones like in the South?
They probably wouldn't go.
Well, I mean, no.
They're reading that much. Yeah.
I was gonna say something along that line.
Yeah. You know, there's just like some fucking middle-aged white lady. He's like,
yeah.
You know what? This is the move, or some ad exec or something. It's like this. We're gonna promote diversity. People are gonna love these covers. Oh, we'll get some art. I don't even know if they had people of color do the art covers.
No, probably not.
It didn't look like it. Like they look like generic, like digital art. So I can't tell. But here's the
and like were those the finished covers?
Yeah.
Oh,
they're out. They're out.
Oh,
so they did Alice in Wonderland, Romeo and Juliet, Three Musketeers, Moby Dick, The Secret Garden, The Count of Monte Cristo, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Emma, The Wizard of Oz, Peter Pan, Treasure Island, and Frankenstein. Here's what The Count of Monte Cristo, that's Spanish, right?
I think so.
I haven't read that yet. It's on my to-read list, but I think I'm some European. I think it's Spain. Who do they... Because that wasn't one of the ones that you can see the cover of, but who do they have representing, the Three Musketeers? I hope they have pictures. Hold on, let me look. They do not. Would they just have 3 black musketeers? Because that doesn't seem like that would make sense for the time period. In, like, Spain.
Yeah.
Because it was, like, 1700s or something? I don't know. Twitter was in an uproar about that. I just thought it was funny. It's like, what a tone-deaf move to think that would take off. Instead of, promoting, like, Invisible Man or Native Son, any, like, Maya Angelou's poetry books, anything, that's what you go with. And it doesn't even just have to be, like, African-American authors. They could have done, like you said, Indian authors, Asian authors, like, if they're just going for diversity. There's so many quality books out there that you could have promoted for this that would even fall under the classic category.
Yeah.
And instead, you're just like, man, we have the licenses for these. Let's just rehash these old ones with different covers. I wonder who's buying those. That'd be fun.
Yeah, I'm not even...
Who's the guy's like, I gotta collect these ones. Yeah, so apparently nobody seemed to enjoy those. Surprise. Like, I really wish they would have just went all out. Like, who if you were just gonna diversify some random characters in history, who'd you go with? I'm going with, that's gonna put us in murky water, but it was already a movie, Blackula.
Oh, yeah.
You just have, like, a real cool looking...
Does it have to be fictional, or can it be...
Well, it's gotta be Dracula, but it's gonna be reimagined.
No, but whenever you said, like any character to, like...
Yeah, a fictional character.
Fictional character.
Why? Do you want to change, like, the actual author's diversity?
Well, no, I was just gonna say, like, if somebody did, like, did a story and they changed and it was, like, Abraham Lincoln's a black man now. Like, that'd be weird. That'd be a different kind
That would change the whole Civil War debate.
Yeah.
Like, that would be a unique story. Yeah, just have, like, an Ernest Hemingway walking around with a dashiki, or F. Scott Fitzgerald with, like, the, like, full-on American Indian garb or something.
Like, I mean, like, if you can have, like, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Slayer, like, there should be stories of, like, what if so-and-so was, like, a man or a female or, a different race or whatever. And just write, like, an alternate history kind of thing. That could be...
I'm surprised, like I said, I've never heard of it. Like, Thomas Jefferson, I think, had, like, 36 black kids. So you...
Oh, yeah, I think so.
So you think, like, somebody write some stories about them.
Yeah.
Go ahead and call me out if I'm incorrect on this. But I'm pretty sure Sherman Helmsley on the Jeffersons said something about his great-great-granddad or somebody being Thomas Jefferson. Like, I'm pretty sure that was in an episode, from what I remember. And I think he was talking to that...
It sounds like something he would say.
Yeah, when he was talking to the stupid English neighbor guy that he always called a dirty honky. That was such a great show. That was one of my favorite shows. And,
Did you like it better than All in the Family?
Yeah. Yeah, because that's where George Jefferson came from.
Yeah. That's why I was asking if you... Because it spun out of that.
See, my problem with All in the Family, Sally Struthers annoyed me, and then I wasn't a big fan of Meathead. Like Rob Reiner.
You weren't supposed to, I think.
Yeah, but they just, like, they got a lot of airtime, and, like, I was more the Jeffersons.
I just remember watching All in the Family, like, on reruns on, like,
Nickelodeon or something.
Like that. Like, wait, like, why am I watching this? Like, can you imagine letting a kid watch that now?
It was really weird, yeah, because I grew up watching all the Nick at Night shows, like you probably did, where after all the cartoons and all that shit, it was, because now it's like TV Land or something.
Yeah.
But they had All in the Family. I think like one of the newest shows at the time was Happy Days.
Yeah.
Like that was one of the newer ones.
And like I Love Lucy's and
Yeah,
all that stuff. I remember Happy Days. Like I was in on the Happy Days whenever I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I remember like episodes where I'd just be sitting in my living room wearing a leather jacket for no reason, just watching the reruns of the Happy Days.
I think Happy Days was my favorite. The Jeffersons, All in the Family, Sanford and Son was hilarious. I didn't care for the Beverly Hillbillies.
No.
What was that show called with Dynamite, J.J. Walker?
Oh,
Not Different Strokes. That was Gary Coleman, which I didn't care for that show either. Yeah, because what the fuck was the name of that show? It had Paul Mooney, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, because then when he died, it was like real sad. Janet Jackson was on that show. Why can't I remember everybody on the show? But I can't remember the name of the show. Our listeners are going to be yelling at me, except for the Australian ones. I don't know if they watch those shows. You know what else I like? Mary Tyler Moore for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I think his name was Lou. Was he the editor of the newspaper or whatever?
So,
he just always was angry, and he like didn't age. I like that. And then the spinoff Rhoda.
I don't know if
I don't know why. It was really stupid. And Laverne and Shirley.
Yeah.
There's another dumb one. But I mean, when are you going to have a guy called the Big Ragu in your life? And Lenny and Squiggy?
Creepers.
Mm-hmm. We should probably get this episode started, huh? Reminiscing about the old days.
Wonder Years?
Fucking quality show, man. Some Paul Pfeiffer, Winnie action. Paul Pfeiffer never got the chicks. I felt bad for him. He was like a nerd. Everybody said he was Marilyn Manson, but he's not. He like looks way better than Marilyn Manson does now, that guy. Forget his name.
Oh, he looks... Marilyn Manson looks weird now.
Yeah.
I mean, he always had his weird thing going, but like now it's just... He's like old age, like...
Yeah.
It's weird.
It drive me nuts not being able to remember the name of that show. It was like one of those shows I didn't like. I never caught that often. It wasn't always on Nick at Night. It was like on another channel. Good times. Yeah. How could I forget? Because the Chappelle Show, and they were doing the most. It was like the most controversial of all Good Time lyrics, and they were trying to figure out what it was, and it was hanging in a chow line.
Oh yeah.
But like nobody could figure it out. Yeah, good times. Hey there, party people. You're listening to the DPW podcast. I'm your host, Caleb James. With me, as always, Spencer, the Burmese bad boy church.
Yeah.
I just thought of that. I don't even necessarily know what Burmese is.
I like it. I think with a name like that, anytime I enter a room, fireworks should be going off.
Something. I think that's a Asian country.
Lights should be flashing.
Is it Burma? Sometimes my geography, I know places, but I don't know them. You know what I mean? You smell me?
Yep.
You feel me?
Mm.
Oh, Myanmar. That ain't right. Yeah. Myanmar. Formerly known as Burma. Okay, I guess you're the Bangladeshi bad boy. Sorry. Changed it up. Today we are talking about 26 must-read books by Black authors. Now, we covered African authors in the past to a wonderful fanfare. So, this time we decided we're going to talk about some books that I've at least actually read. So, hopefully this will steer us in the right direction a little more. This is from Early Bird Books. So if you want to check this out, go to earlybirdbooks.com. I'll put that in the show notes for you. Now, this article is written by one Olivia Mason and Katie Norman. I say that because it just dropped February 4th. It's a new article for once.
Oh, nice.
That's very rare. I found an updated thing. So, kick things off. How many did I say? 26. Oh boy. Just seeing how many of these I've read. There's a lot we need to read on here, too.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, well, there's some I have, I just haven't got to yet. My fucking pile's too big. The first one on this list, it's not in any particular order, I guess, is The Underground Railroad by Colson Whitehead. I heard this was really good. Didn't this win like a Pulitzer or something, I think? Let me see. Many African-American books tackle the difficult topic of slavery, but few do it with the magic and grace of Colson Whitehead. A recent Pulitzer Prize winner and National Book Award winner, the novel follows Cora, a young slave on the Georgia cotton plantation. Cora sees an opportunity to escape on the Underground Railroad and takes it. In this novel, the Underground Railroad is not just a metaphor. There are literal tracks and tunnels under the earth, and at each stop along the way, Cora encounters uncanny facsimiles of her own world.
Facsimiles?
Facsimiles. I remember, I think it was only like last year or something, I was reading about this book, and I wanted to put it on our, before we decided to just do indie authors, I wanted to put it on our Book of the Month list, but then, we changed it up. But yeah, this is another one I need to get to reading, actually. Also, folks, if you haven't clicked on the link in the show notes to go to this article, you can. It has a list of places you can buy these books.
Yeah,
so definitely check that out. Next up is Beloved by Toni Morrison. She's another author I haven't got to yet, but I heard her work was really good. She just passed away recently, which is sad. Nobel Prize winner Toni Morrison has broken the mold a few times over with novels like Song of Solomon, Sula, and The Bluest Eye, all of which are well worth reading. But her most celebrated work is her Pulitzer Prize-winning novel, Beloved. The first in a trilogy, the novel was followed by Jazz in Paradise. Beloved was inspired by the life of Margaret Gardner, an African-American woman who escaped her slavers in Kentucky in 1856. As the novel unfolds, readers learn about the haunting tragedies plaguing Sethe, a woman who similarly escaped slavery and must figure out how to deal with the scars it left behind. One reason I haven't gotten to this book yet is because, it's a part of a trilogy.
Yeah.
And I have a damn problem getting into series because then the type of reader I am, I'm real chronological.
Yeah.
I have to I read it's like comics. I read the first one. If I have them all, I'm going to read them all.
Yeah.
And I get burnt out a lot with that. Sometimes I just get burnt out with the author's style of writing or just the story itself and I need a break. But then when I get a break and I decide to read something else, it takes me forever
to get back to finish.
Yeah, like that Yukio Mishima tetralogy I've been reading. It takes me forever. I'm only on the third book now. I didn't even start it yet because it takes me forever to get back to it because they're so long and, that classic literature.
Well, at least if it's something with that, it's only 3. I don't know, I couldn't imagine getting into, an ongoing book series.
Like a Harry Potter even. Or Game of Thrones would suck.
Well, I mean, even that's 6... Because, I read The Dark Tower, and that was 7... that was 7 volumes. Or 7 different
maybe
books.
The Expanse?
I'm just thinking, you see, a lot of these more, indie guys, they have, 15, 16 books in a series. Or, you see that a lot with, the sci-fi stuff,
Well, to divert from this conversation just a bit, how do you feel about when it comes to something, say an indie author, even a mainstream author, when you just found that author and you're like, ooh, this book's really good, and you start reading it, and it's a part of a series, but then would you feel better if the series wasn't done and you could catch up and then you can go along with it? Or would you rather have the series be all the way done and then you can just, you said you got into The Dark Tower, you got into it when it was all done.
Yeah.
But
done.
What if it's a fucking 20 plus, like a Dune series? Yeah. Would you be this mountain's too big, I don't want to climb it? Because I feel like that would be me. That's why I haven't read The Expanse. It's 9-10 books in, I'm like...
Especially those books are so big.
Yeah.
They're so big.
That mountain is too big for me to climb. I can do it, but I don't want to.
It'd be like that one lady who does all, those books that have, a number in it, in the title. Like Jillian or Jen, something like that.
Yeah.
And, but, those seem like 300 to 400 pages, not, almost 1,000 page a book.
Those are rough. A lot of those fantasy books are like that, too, I think. Next up, 12 Years a Slave by Solomon Northup. A contemporary of Uncle Tom's Cabin, this harrowing true story was a bestseller in 1853. That's a cool fact right there. That was a bestseller in 1853.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was that old.
Well, yeah, he was a slave, obviously. But you ever see the movie?
No.
The movie actually made me buy the book because it was such a good fucking movie. It's a hard watch, but that's one of the best movies I've ever seen. Yeah, but just the fact that was a bestseller in 1853, like, you figure people, even with that kind of story, weren't buying, African-American literature that much back then. If there probably wasn't even that many African-American writers.
Then he'd have to be one of the first, you'd think.
Yeah, I mean, there definitely wasn't that many. He was a northerner, but, well, here, we'll get to the synopsis. It returned to the public consciousness in the 1960s and again in 2013 when the Academy Award-winning film was released. The memoir of a free black man who was tricked and sold into slavery is a shocking, unforgettable insight into one of the bleakest periods in American history. Yeah, it was just so fucked up how they got him, too. Because he was a free man, he was a northerner, and he got, they tricked him, and then he spent 12 years as a slave in the South, even though he was supposed to be a free man. So he was, super articulate and educated, and he didn't fit in with the slaves, obviously, because he wasn't a slave when he got there. And if you like the movie, I would check out the book. We're going back to our intro, an actual good Barnes & Noble edition of something. Yeah. I got a nice Barnes & Noble leatherback edition of it. Next up, The Third Life of Grange Copeland by Alice Walker. We adore The Color Purple, but Alice Walker has written a lot more books worth reading. See, I only knew her for The Color Purple, so that's it's always interesting when you find out somebody whose most famous work might not even been their best work.
Yeah.
Set against the backdrop of 1930s Georgia, the novel follows its normal hero throughout the acts of his life. He begins as a husband, father, and maltreated sharecropper who, desperate to start anew, then flees to the north without explanation. Humiliation eventually drives Grange back to the South, where he's confronted by what has changed in his absence. A frightening account of racism and violence, The Third Life of Grange Copeland is also a novel about identity, family, and the true meaning of home. That was a common theme then, too, in the 30s. I mean, I'm sure we'll get to that on some of the other ones on here, but a lot of black people in the 20s, 30s, and even 40s who, even though they were free, because, slavery ended in the 1800s, so they were technically free, but they lived in the South, so you don't have the same laws. It's like, you're definitely a lesser citizen, you're treated like a lesser person, or even not like a person. And then when they would go somewhere up north, they didn't necessarily fit in with the northerners, and it was just a real fucking squirrely time. Because you go to, Chicago, for instance, back then, the 30s, yeah, Chicago was always a free North state, but the whole cities are separated. I mean, even now they're kind of still separated. You have just straight black neighborhoods, and they're usually impoverished neighborhoods. And back then, though, it was way worse. They always relegated, the whites got the nice area and all this shit, and it was just fucked up. And then you go back to the South, and everybody's kind of poor anyway. There's a lot of really good stories I'd recommend people to check out from set in that time period in the South. Next up, I actually just read this. Was that last month? Maybe the month before. This was on our African episode. This one got me interested. Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe. The first historical fiction novel in the critically acclaimed African trilogy, Things Fall Apart examines the fallout that occurs after the British colonized an African village in the late 1800s. As President Barack Obama said, the book is a true classic of world literature, a masterpiece that has inspired generations of writers in Nigeria, across Africa, and around the world. My only problem with that book was the protagonist, and it's because it's set, the time period it's set in. It's the African villages. It was more of when it came to women, you'd have multiple wives and lots of children, and it was kind of a warrior deal. You the bravest, you kill, and you don't show emotion, and you're just kind of a hard ass.
Yeah.
So the protagonist in the story was not likable, but everything else in the story I found was really good. And it opened my eyes to a lot of cool African folklore I never heard before. So they got me interested in that. So that's definitely one I'd recommend for people to check out.
Are you gonna check out, because they said that was the first in a trilogy?
Yeah, I was actually planning on doing that this summer. I like to. I'm not a mood reader, but a season reader. When it comes to winter, I like to read, your Jack London type books or something depressing like Russian literature. I like to, when it gets nice and sunny, that's when I'll get to some, springtime, I'll get into some more Spanish oriented literature than African literature in the summer. I like to space it out. Unlike you, who just goes, Stephen King. I'm going to go murdery Stephen King in the winter and less murdery Stephen King in the summer. No, I'm proud of you. You've been reading some H.P. Lovecraft.
I've been reading some H.P. Lovecraft. I've been reading some Conan.
I can't wait to talk about Conan in the next bookcast because I got some things to say.
Oh, yeah, it has its stories.
It's getting a little, it's a little different now.
Yeah, to say the least.
Though, not to cut this episode in the middle here, but they do have in the one story a quick, it's only like a paragraph or two, but it was kind of interesting, just a little bit of theology they threw in there, like the gods and stuff in Conan's world, and like what they believe, the afterlife and stuff. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
But the rest of that story, man, I haven't got to the other ones. I was on, what was that, the Queen of the Black Coast?
Yeah.
That was, I just finished that last night. And I'll just do the old... Next up, Americana. Oh, no. This is where I get in trouble. You read that one.
No. If you can't read it, how am I going to be able to read it?
I got in trouble for mispronouncing African names in the past. I'll try it anyway. Americana by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. Americana, which is slated to become an HBO series, that's cool. They're making like a lot of fucking quality series. Like, I like when they make series off of good books.
Yeah.
Not your fucking dog shit Divergent, Hunger Games, Twilight. Like, they're making movies and shows off of good stuff, man.
I'm interested to, like I said, I just finished, Stephen King again, but I just finished The Outsider, and HBO is doing a TV
I heard that's
series.
really good.
I'm waiting to. There's a good chunk of episodes to.
Yeah,
I just finished it not too long ago. I want to still give myself some time.
Joe Rogan was just talking about how awesome it is.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he doesn't seem like the kind of guy that watches like stuff like that, but he liked it. So anyway, Americana begins in Adichie's native country of Nigeria. That's another thing I noticed. A lot of great African writers seem to come out of Nigeria. So that might be something to worth checking out and see if there's like, Ethiopia or South America. Well, South America's kind of whitey town anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe like the Sudan or Congo or something. That'd be cool. Like a Congolese writer. 'Cause a lot of basketball players come out of there, but I don't know how the literature. See, that's something we need to research because it makes us fun. Because it's such a big fucking continent.
Yeah.
Because I know you get like a lot of like Egyptian writers and stuff like that, but there's so much of the continent that we just kind of gloss over. Like when it comes to movie making, TV shows, literature, like anything creative. I mean, a lot of artists we recognize, like, different painters and stuff, but I have to look into them. They do a separate episode on that. Americana begins in Adichie's native country of Nigeria. Young lovers Efemelu and Obaneze are both determined to leave their military-ruled country. Life receives a scholarship to a college in America. Ife receives a scholarship to a college in America, and through Obaneze had planned to follow her. 9/11 makes it impossible, and he instead becomes an undocumented immigrant in London. Outside of Nigeria, both must grapple with what it means to be black in the Western world, and wondered if they'll ever return home and to one another. That seems like a really interesting story, because a lot of these stories are kind of, dated back, and like that's the only problem is we can't really like relate to some of the messages coming through or what it would be like because we weren't alive.
Yeah.
In the 30s or 50s even. But like this is 9/11. We both lived through 9/11.
Yeah.
So to like see what it would be for an immigrant trying to come over here during 9/11, getting stuck in another country, like that would be really cool. I think that I'm gonna have to put that on my list too. The Selected Poems of Langston Hughes by Langston Hughes. One of the most famous black authors of the Harlem Renaissance, Langston Hughes was a poet, social activist, novelist, and playwright. He was one of the early innovators of jazz poetry, a style that has rhythms that feel improvised or evocative of jazz. If poetry is not for you, though you're missing out if you don't give Hughes' work a chance, we recommend reading his debut novel, Not Without Laughter. I have only ever read his poetry and I like it, so I would definitely want to check out his novels. I didn't know he was a playwright too, though. That's pretty cool. You big Langston Hughes fan? Read some of that Harlem Renaissance fiction. It's pretty cool. I feel like if you're going to read poetry, because you're not a poetry guy,
yeah,
that would be more your style. because it's like, you know, one's kind of about city living and like it's not about fucking, you know, fluttery butterflies and it's a little more hard hitting. Too, like imagine what Harlem was like back then too. Early half of the 20th century. It was probably rough. It's probably like a shithole.
All of New York probably was.
That's except for like maybe Manhattan. Yeah, I do feel like most of New York just back in the day was rough.
Because I mean, like what the
Hell's Kitchen.
Well, like I never watched what was that Leonardo DiCaprio movie with like the Gangs of New York or whatever.
Oh
like
yeah,
or even like
that was a good movie.
Like Boardwalk. Like I watched the first couple of seasons of Boardwalk. Like people just fucking getting whacked. They were, like it. Just, yeah, New York was fucked up. Like
still fucked up, but now it's kind of it's more gentrified now. Yeah, it's kind of like what was more fucked up, New York or Chicago. I feel like I would rather live in New York, even back then, than Chicago.
Yeah.
Like, Chicago was just, like, you think of Chicago, you think like Al Capone.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like a good place.
They always made it seem like it was still kind of almost like the Wild West there back in the day.
Kind of, yeah.
Like, you just walk down the street shooting people. Yeah.
Next up, Flight to Canada by Ishmael Reed. With his magical realist novel, Mumbo Jumbo, Ishmael Reed became a powerful voice in the black literary canon. Flight to Canada is yet another game changer, with its parodic take on traditional slave narrative. The story takes place in an alternative Civil War era, just as a disease infects slaves with the desire to flee their owners. Ravelin Quickskill is... That's a cool name. Yeah. Ravelin Quickskill is one such slave, and he'll settle for nothing less than Canada. His journey is marked by a quirky combination of historical fact and 20th century modernities. Abe Lincoln and Xerox machines make appearances, for example, which offers a unique but insightful view of slavery in America. That's one we definitely never, like, I haven't even really heard of it, like, as a genre, is, like, magical realism set in slave times. Like, that would be kind of cool. I don't know where the fax machine fits in, or the Xerox machine, but, fax machine was actually invented before the telephone. Did you know that? It's a weird one.
No.
Yeah. It's like really old, like 1800s. Loving Her by Anne Allen Shockley. Anne Allen Shockley was the first African-American author to write about an interracial lesbian relationship, and she did so in this 1974 novel. Ooh, saucy. The protagonist, Renee, is an African-American mother and wife who is trapped in an abusive, booze-addled marriage. A serendipitous meeting with Terry, a wealthy white woman, reawakens Renee's long-suppressed sexual identity and offers the escape she and her daughter need. Amidst the racist, homophobic slurs thrown their way, Terry and Renee find safety in each other's love, though they cannot keep tragedy from knocking at their door. That's fucking in the 70s? Like, a black woman and a white woman in a gay relationship. That's like checking off all the boxes of like what fucking white Americans hate like back in the day, especially Southerners.
There's no way she did not have a window that was not broken in her house.
That poor, like that woman, and that book was real popular too. Like she definitely had she definitely had some harassment come her way. Apologize if I fuck up this name. It's got a hyphen in it. Any name that's got a hyphen always throws me off. Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates. Ta-Nehisi.
I should know this because this guy has been doing comics for the past couple of years.
I know I've heard of him, but I never actually heard his name out loud. Ta-Nehisi. Apologies, Mr. Coates. Written as a letter to his son, this nonfiction book by Ta-Nehisi Coates is a meditation on what it means to be black and dealing with racism in modern-day America. Coates' work has been deemed required reading by Toni Morrison and received multiple accolades, including the 2015 National Book Award. It's no surprise that Coates is considered one of the most iconic black authors ever published, or that his new fiction novel, The Water Dancer, was chosen for Oprah's book club list. Other than the Oprah's book club thing, Oprah has really gone downhill, man. Like, what the fuck happened to Oprah? She became like, I mean, not like necessarily. Yeah, I think she's pretty hated even in the black community at this point. Like, you know, her dealings with like Harvey Weinstein, and like she drags black men. I don't know if you ever pay attention to these things. You're not really on Black Twitter, but
no,
like she always dragging black men. Like anytime they're going through anything. Like, Gail Kinders was dragging Kobe Bryant. He just died, and she was bright, 'cause it's Oprah's not lover, whatever she is, her friend. Yeah, Oprah she was hanging out with Harvey Weinstein and all that shit, but anytime a black celebrity comes under fire for something, she just throws him right under the bus.
That's fucked up.
Yeah, so I'm not a big fan of the Oprah there, or her stupid book club.
I didn't even know she did a book club still.
It's the most famous of book clubs. I don't know how it does it now.
That ain't as good as Conan book club. I can goddamn guarantee you that.
Motherfucking Conan! Conan book club's where it's at. People aren't listening. They're missing out. Unexpected Stories by Octavia E. Butler. You've heard of Kindred and Parable of the Sower, but these Octavia Butler stories likely flew under your radar. In fact, they flew under the world's radar until they were featured in this 2-part collection. The novella, A Necessary Being, follows a female of an endangered alien race who, due to her biological rarity, is forced into a leadership position. This is a status that comes with more loneliness than power, and her feelings of isolation impact her and her territory's futures. Meanwhile, the short story Childfinder charts the tumultuous mentee-mentor relationship between a young girl and a veteran telepath. Both are further reminders of Butler's skill as the storyteller and why she was such a prominent figure in science fiction. That seems like that'd be more up your alley.
Yeah.
Because some of these are more classic literature, and you're just...
Not there yet.
You want the fanciful stories, and of course that one magical realism story, that might be interesting. Is that all of them? No.
No, we got a couple more.
80 more. Next up, White Teeth by Zadie Smith. English author Zadie Smith took the world by storm with her debut novel, which immediately became a bestseller and earned her comparisons to Charles Dickens, Salman Rushdie, and John Irving. In the novel, Smith borrows from her own Jamaican heritage to create the character Clara Bowen, the tooth-challenged second wife of World War II veteran Archie Jones. This is a LA Times quote, a dazzling, intergenerational first novel, wonderfully inventive, playful yet unaffected, mongrel yet cohesive, profound yet funny, vernacular yet lyrical.
Not to say anything about the book, but that's the worst quote review thing ever.
Yeah, that was a bunch of fucking...
what the fuck? That didn't tell me anything.
A bunch of gobbledygook.
It's this and that and everything in between.
I didn't know vernacular had an R. Vernacular? I always thought it was vernacular. Because I'm not that educated. Well, the book sounds cool. I don't know about that fucking dumbass quote, though. And they're is it just because she is an English author that they're comparing her to Charles Dickens? Because Dickens is very long and dry, his writing style. So, I get it, he's one of the greatest, authors of the time and stuff. But how many kids are out there reading Dickens now? Young kids, how that? Yeah. I read Great Expectations last year, and it was a really good book. But I could definitely see just throwing that in a fucking heap because it is long and boring, and that man clearly got paid by the word.
If you got if you had a fireplace, just throwing it in one.
Yeah.
I'm done. I'm done.
Yeah, and I never read Salman Rushdie, so I don't know. I read John Irving though. That's another thing. That John Irving's not anything like Charles Dickens. So I don't know where they come up with these fucking comparisons.
Well,
she writes like every great writer you know. Okay.
Well, as you can tell by that review,
just a bunch of maybe she writes just like Charles Dickens. I don't know. Next up, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou. No list of books by black authors is complete without a work by the... I always hate this word. No list... How do you say that word? Inimitable? Inimitable, I guess. No list of books by black authors is complete without a work by the inimitable author and poet Maya Angelou. Inimitable. Just don't use that word. Why you gotta fucking sauce it up like that?
I would never have to say this, so I'm just gonna throw a fancy word in there.
Inimitable. It's the I and the N and the I and the M and the I. Anyway, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings is often banned for its depictions of rape, racism, and sexuality. Really? I'm pretty sure in my library book club, or what was the book fair when I was a kid, I always saw that book on the shelves. And that was, like, in fucking elementary school.
Well, that's back. We still was able to, like...
Free America,
things,
yeah.
Have things a little bit.
Censorship wasn't...
It was, like, towards the end of our one where things kind of got, dicey.
However, it has stood the test of time because of its poetic and powerful prose, unflinching honesty, and unusual style that straddles the line between autobiography and fiction. Fucking dumbass school. Like, if it's something like that powerful, why are you gonna ban it? Stupid. Dumb. Like, okay, I understand wanting, like little kids to read it, but, like, in high school, like, things like rape and stuff, like, those are real issues.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't just fucking wash them, sweep them under the rug like they don't happen. But our sweet children, they can't know of the evil world. To Sir with Love by E.R. Braithwaite. The basis for the Sidney Poitier movie, I can never say his name fancy, Poitier. I forget who says it. Like, every time I see, like, whenever they would have an award, somebody would always say it real, like, French sounding.
I used to feel like I'm, like, what's this place, or what's this face saying? Putty Cad? Like, that's how I get.
Was that Sylvester?
Yeah, I think so.
The basis for the Sidney Poitier movie, To Sir with Love, is Braithwaite's autobiographical novel about being a school teacher in 1940s London, presented with a roster of bigoted all-white students. I had imagined, and I'll get to that in a second. Rick must go above and beyond the standard syllabus and educate his class on respect, racial equality, and open-mindedness. I always felt, like, even back, like, in the day, like, English racism would be, for some reason, like, more polite. Like, you're in England, and you get, like, little school children in England, like, they're racist, but I feel like it would still sound way more polite than over here. Where over here, you just, like, the fucking racist assholes just throw out, racial slurs and do, heinous shit. Like, I feel like for the most part over there, they would be more, not tongue-in-cheek, but...
It's different because they don't have... because most of our, like, racism...
Is our history.
Stems from our own history. So, like, and I think, like, I'm pretty sure I've heard over there, like, it's different, like, it gets really, like, territorial, like, not necessarily, like, racist, but, like, if you're, like, 2 blocks over, you're a fucking piece of shit because you like a different soccer team that has a yellow shirt instead of a red shirt, like,
That's racism. That's some other fucking dumb.
Well, that's not just because, like, I know there's other races over there, but I think for the longest time, it was a lot of white people over there.
Well, they're having, like, a problem like we are now with the fucking Boris Johnson and a bunch of, emboldened racists now. So, again, though, I mean, we're just kind of stereotyping English people. I don't know if they're fucking polite. I don't know too many English people personally. We need to get Ash to tell us about racism if he ever gets back on the internet again.
I just got done listening to one of Rogan's new podcasts with the his, like, Dale or something. But it's this piano guy who, like, converted, like...
Oh, the Daryl Dixon.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was excellent.
That was a really good episode.
Yeah, he's the guy, I think that Black Klansman movie's based off of him. He's the guy who he infiltrated the KKK, and he converted like 200 KKK members and Nazis to not being racist anymore. But he didn't just like, they weren't just like lower level guys, they were like the wizards and grand wizards and all that dumb shit. And he did it by just talking to them, and just treated them like people and be like, hey, have you ever even talked to a black guy before, really? Like, and then he would, slowly over time build not just their trust, but like befriend them. Yeah. And then they were like, oh, well, this is fucking stupid. He just educated them on, black people aren't different.
I definitely recommend giving that a listen to, especially if you like are interested in this kind of subject matter we've been covering in this,
I wish that guy had his own podcast. He sounds like Neil deGrasse Tyson, but not as pompous and douchey. Yeah. Like if Neil deGrasse, like maybe Neil deGrasse Tyson before he was like real famous. Yeah. But that was really interesting. I was really excited when I saw that he was on there because I really wanted to hear that guy's story because I heard things like when that Black Klansman movie came out is when I became more aware of him, and I've read about him actually before. I've read a couple articles on him and stuff, and I was like, really? Like this guy did, but it was more like almost like just like a couple blurbs here and there, and it was like one of those meme things. You'd be like, oh, Daryl Dixon, he converted, and you're like, well, isn't that nifty? Like, that's cool that somebody could go do that, but he'd go to Klan meetings and stuff. Like, he didn't just, like, he was really putting himself in danger.
Yeah.
That story, that was pretty crazy. Everybody should listen to that one. Linden Hills by Gloria Naylor. Gloria Naylor first burst onto the literary scene with her National Book Award-winning debut, The Woman of Brewster Place. Its follow-up, Linden Hills, is thematically similar, but it's also heavily influenced by Dante's Inferno. Oh, I'm in. That sounds fucking cool. The title's namesake is an affluent African-American neighborhood where your geographical location, at the top of the hill or at the bottom, determines your status as a resident. So it's like Dante's Inferno with all the layers of hell, but it's like, now I'm just assuming it would be like, the poor class at the bottom, and then like kind of almost like a more generic version of that would be this is like the Raging Inferno or something, one of those tower movies, or even like that Ray Wank book we just read where the rich people lived in the tower, but the higher up you went, which is kind of like Trump Tower actually, the higher up you go, the more wealthy you are until it's just one person who owns the whole top.
Yeah.
That would be fucking cool though, just see like, a neighborhood or something like that. I have to bookmark that. Linden Hills by Gloria Naylor. I also, now this is, I don't know what would be the best word to describe this. My, not nearsightedness, weakness isn't the right word either, but where I fall short in my literary adventures is I have not read really much. Like, novel-wise, I don't think I've read any female black authors. Like, I've read female Spanish authors, Mexican authors, like, different things like that, but I haven't read a lot of female authors in general, because for the most part, been working through, like, the classics and stuff, and, like, Jane Austen, like, that stuff never really interested me. Like I said, Toni Morrison's on my list, and, I've read a lot of Japanese female authors, but I have not gotten into some other ones. What about you? You like... No, I figured...
Nope.
Again, maybe it's just like a lot of the stories too. Like, that story sounds really cool, but like a lot of the stories are... Again, going back to like Jane Austen and stuff, it's like about love and marriage and shit. I don't fucking care about that stuff. Like, I read that Grotesque book. That was alright, but that was more about, like, fucking hookers and murder. Yeah. That was, like, a noir book, so that was cool. Yeah, so maybe that'll be our goal, 2020. At least read a couple.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll pick one off of this list. That could also have something to do with, like, again, because I read a lot of classic literature. There's not a lot of classic
female
writers, yeah. Again, that weren't writing about fucking marriage and courtship and stuff. Or, like, aristocrats or something. Yeah, like, what the fuck was Zelda Fitzgerald writing about? Fucking, I don't know, I don't care. Drinking? I don't know what she wrote about. Though I do really like Maya Angelou's poetry. She's one of my favorite poets. I probably like her more than Dylan Thomas, actually. Alright, Anthony Burns by Virginia Hamilton. Virginia Hamilton was a prolific author whose biography truly ran the gamut. She was the first black author to win the Newbery Medal, an esteemed award for children's literature, though she also penned sci-fi books and the semi-historical fiction novel. Here she puts her own spin on the story of runaway slave Anthony Burns, whose battle against the Fugitive Slave Act eventually led to the Civil War. The autobiography of Malcolm X by Malcolm X and Alex Haley, touted as one of the 10 most important non-fiction books of the century by Time magazine. Well, that's a distinction. Jeez. Malcolm X's autobiography discusses more than just his own life. It's a history of the black Muslim movement. This is a Spike Lee quote. The most important book I'll ever read. It changed the way I thought. It changed the way I acted. It has given me courage I didn't know I had inside me. I'm one of hundreds of thousands whose lives were changed for the better. How many more on here? There is a bunch, and we're already an hour in, so you know what? Should we do a two-parter, or should we just cut this short, Spencer?
Whatever you feel like doing, sir. You're the man with the keyboard.
Well, just so I'm not leaving anybody hanging, I'll at least read the titles of the next ones, and we'll decide what to do later. We have Babel 17 by Samuel R. Delaney. We have The Famished Road by Ben Okri. We have Mama by Terry McMillan. Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison, which is one of my all-time favorite novels. SOS by Amiri Baraka. Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston. Go Tell It on the Mountain by James Baldwin. Sing Unburied Sing by Jasmine Ward. And that is it. I think we will do a two-parter because those is like almost half of the list left. Yeah. That'll give us at least a short episode to record next time we do one of these.
Yeah.
We won't have too many to cover, but because, obviously I want to talk about Invisible Sun. And I do want to mention, I didn't see Native Son on that, or Invisible Man, but I didn't see Native Son on that list, which is, I enjoyed that more than Invisible Man. I mean, I get what Invisible Man, why that was so important, but Native Son was more entertaining. It was action-packed, and I feel like, and then again, I told you before about like the giant lecture kind of at the end, so maybe that's what threw people off. And also the subject matter, like whereas Invisible Man is through, a black American man in that time period, of like what he was going through and what it was like. Native Son was like more about like the criminal black man, almost a stereotype. So maybe I could see why people wouldn't, but it showed why he was the way, like why he was a criminal, why he was the way he was, because like I said before about, I think that was set in Chicago, how they were, like the city was separated and they were in the poor area and, shit like that. We'll get into that when we go over that episode. But what was that called again? Early Bird Books?
Yes.
If you folks want to check that out, it's in the show notes. That was earlybirdbooks.com. 26 must-read books by black authors. If you want to check out what we're doing and if you want to see what, you want to join in on the Conan fun, Conan Bookcast, you can go over to drunkenpenwriting.com, and I post those every Monday, the stories you read in that collection. And I post free versions where you can read in the links there, so if you check that out, you can read the stories for free, and I also put a YouTube video for each story, so you can start off. It's like part one or what, because they're not long, but
these ones are getting a little bit longer than.
But the audio versions, it takes a little bit to get through. But I post those as well if you're, you want to listen to them. And you don't have to follow us, my babies. You don't have to read along with us. You can go back, read at your own time, and listen to the episodes when you're good and ready.
Because they'll be here.
Yeah, and those bookcasts are every Friday. I guess it really doesn't matter. We're going to Detroit this weekend. Yeah. Hey, going to see some nasty skanks or whatever's in Detroit. I don't know. I've never been there. But this episode will be out next week, so I guess. By the time you're listening to this, you'll find out if we're still alive. Yeah.
if this gets posted, we survived.
Yeah. And that's not saying anything about the nice city of Detroit, but our Fleabag Motel might be applicable. Well, I didn't book the Marriott, which is like I didn't get the Ritz here. I hope the area looks like it's maybe safe. I don't know. I like I said, I've never been in the Detroit area, so we'll find out how that goes. If you want to bother us on the old Twitter, you can go to Drunken Pen Writing. What are we? At Drunk Pen Writing. And Instagram is at Drunken Pen Writing. And then you can go to Facebook, Drunken Pen Writing, and tell us in the long, lengthy, girthy paragraphs about how sexy our voices are and how much you love the podcast. Or, conversely, tell us how much you dislike us and how much we suck and, all that fun stuff. Good?
Yeah. No, I was thinking about trying to find a way to work in a joke about all the nasty comments on the article, but then I couldn't.
Yeah, Spencer, his fucking unnecessarily popular, stupid, viral Marvel article, or his superhero article that he wrote, a year ago? What did you write that 2 years?
Whenever we, that was one of the first things we published, I think. That was, within
so it's
the
a couple
first
years
months.
old, and it's still, every goddamn day gets at least, 100 views or something, and it always is getting these fucking angry nerds commenting on it. I don't know why. They get so mad because they don't... we're not even going to go into that. You folks have a lovely time in your lives, and we'll catch you next time. We need, before we say goodbye, we need a goddamn catchphrase to end these episodes. Yeah. Ron Burgundy, stay classy, San Diego. Yeah. We need something like that.
Fuck off, dick bags.
No, that's too hard. Short and hard, no.
See,
we'll come up with one later.
Catchphrase was us just rambling into nothing until we just stopped. I thought that was our catchphrase.
Every time I edit these, I listen to that. I'm like, yeah, I don't know. We'll come up with something maybe one day. Until then, bye.
Bye.